The authors introduce us to a place called the Yulin Continent, a place filled with mysteries, home to countless magical beasts, but at the same time, this place holds many deadly dangers. The smallest carelessness can lead to death. Besides, for every hunter there is a bigger hunter. Only the most powerful creatures are destined to survive. The events take place in the morning, usually at the academy. The protagonist runs up to a girl and suddenly tells her that he wants to challenge her and promises her that he will defeat her today. His classmate and friends didn't understand why Qin Yong would challenge Chen Mo again, but they understood that he would lose to her again and beg for mercy on his knees. The girl did not understand what he wanted from her and asked why he was so persistent. After all, whether it was sports or grades at the academy or painting, he was always losing to her, and even after 99 losses he still challenges her. The main character knew that she was recognized as the top beauty of their academy. She had the best grades, she was good at sports and painting, but he refused to believe that she was perfect at everything. So the main character strove to beat her at least once. He took her by the hand and offered her to run the 100-meter race with him right now, and if she won, he was willing to do her any task. The girl was embarrassed and hesitant to say that if she lost he should be her boyfriend, but she was able to finish saying it. The protagonist interjected what she wanted to say, but the girl was angry with him and called him a real retard. After a while they stood at the start and waited for the coach's command. Qin Yong had been preparing for this run for a long time. His main dream was to beat the unbeaten Chen Mo. At that moment the coach gave the command to start and they ran. At the very beginning the main character was ahead of her and he thought that this time he would definitely beat her, but the girl outran him without any difficulty and crossed the finish line faster than him. The trainer was proud of her, because she had just broken her own record. The protagonist couldn't understand how this could have happened. After all, he had trained long and hard to beat her, at least in the race, but he didn't succeed again. The girl came up to him and said that maybe next time he would be lucky. The protagonist explained to her that the next time he had time he would fight her again, even if the sea dried up and the rocks rotted away. He swore to beat her. Suddenly there was a huge earthquake. All the students stood in a stupor. The teachers told them not to panic. At that moment the ground beneath the main character began to crack unbelievably hard and at some point collapsed and all the students collapsed. The main character was very frightened and was preparing to die. After a while he woke up in an empty place. He didn't understand where he was. A blonde girl appeared in front of him. As it turned out, she had been waiting for him for a long time until he woke up. The main character asked her who she was and she answered that she was the goddess of this dimension and that she also controlled other dimensions. She told him that he died. There was a big earthquake in his world. He and all his classmates died, but in fact they all should have died, but she decided to give the main character a chance to be reborn, so she resurrected him. In the new world she gives him a special ability. The main character couldn't believe it, as rebirth and time travel sounded too fantastic. She replied that his classmates and teachers had already been reborn in the new world. She asked, "Don't you want to join them?" At that moment he remembered his classmate with whom he had always competed and lost. He grabbed the goddess and demanded that she give him the best ability, and if she would make him the strongest. The protagonist was ready to accept any of her conditions. She wanted to warn him that there was a perfect system of enhanced cultivation in the new world, and it was theoretically possible to become the strongest in the world, but there was one problem. But the protagonist refused to listen to her and told her to send him to the new world. She told him to remember that it was his choice and that he wouldn't regret it. He replied confidently that as long as he could be the strongest, he wouldn't regret it, no matter what it cost him. The protagonist dreamed that this time he would surpass his classmate and everyone else, and vowed to prove that hard work pays off. After a while she was ready to send him off to a new world, and told him that he had made that decision himself. After 10 minutes the protagonist was sent to a new world and he hoped to be reborn as a powerful hero, but suddenly he opened his eyes and was shocked, as he was reborn as some kind of insect. A system notification appeared in front of him. which listed all of his characteristics. The protagonist's race was Steel Chrysalis, and all of his characteristics were 0 or very low. The system notified him that cultivation has an endless growth effect. As long as the protagonist absorbs enough spirit beasts, he can evolve endlessly, and eventually even become human. The protagonist was pleased and was willing to go for it, for now he had the opportunity to become the strongest in this world through hard work. But at the same moment he faced his first problem. The abyss he was in was too big and he did not understand how he could get out of it. And no matter how he tried to get out he couldn't do anything. He lay there in a broken state and wished he had legs, or ideally to become human again. The protagonist wondered why this place was so quiet, because he had been here for a long time, but in all that time he had not seen a single living creature. Still, after a while he heard the rustling of leaves in the bush. The protagonist wondered who it could be. Rabbits came to the abyss. The protagonist wondered if creatures in other worlds were the same as on Earth. But suddenly the rabbits opened their mouths. They were incredibly frightening and evil. They wanted to attack the main character. He was defenseless and not ready to die. He remembered the abs exercise he had done while he was human. He decided to repeat the very same movement, and at the last moment he was able to jump high away from the rabbits. With this jump he was able to climb out of the abyss and roll on to explore the new world. The main character was going too fast and he remembered he had no arms and legs and he didn't know how to stop. Suddenly a huge snake attacked him and he was able to bounce off it again. Exploring the new world he came across other monsters which he was able to dodge. He cried in terror and did not understand why there were so many monsters in these woods. At one point he jumped away and got stuck in a tree, but unfortunately the very horrible rabbits that he had met in the beginning came to him. They jumped on the protagonist and were ready to eat him, but suddenly in an incredible way he ate some rabbits. The other rabbits were frightened of him and ran away from him. The system alerted the protagonist that he had just eaten level 3 spirit beasts. It suggested that he stick to the golden mean for further improvement. The system rewarded him with a new jump ability. He wondered if this was the ultimate ability. Thanks to this ability he was able to jump out of the tree he was stuck in. The protagonist wondered, because he had just eaten a huge rabbit, but his stomach was completely empty. He assumed that was also part of the system. The system notified him that the final system connects one space to another. The spirit beasts he would eat would be kept in the dimension, in order to fully digest them and take over some of their abilities. The protagonist understood how this system was set up and thought, in that case, who should he eat next? He was full of determination and fearlessly attacked all the animals he encountered. He tried to devour a 2-headed snake but the attempt was unsuccessful. He decided to devour a 4-legged bear but again he failed. He tried to devour a less dangerous animal and attacked a swordsman boar, but all his attempts were unsuccessful. The system alerted him that he could only devour beasts that were slightly weaker than him or several levels weaker. Suddenly he encountered a terribly huge bear that attacked him. The protagonist tried to run away from it. He saw some crevice and happily jumped in. But the crevice was quite deep and he fell to the very bottom. He opened his eyes and saw some kind of chain and heard the terrible sounds of a huge animal. In front of him stood a huge and powerful lion, with the outlines of a dragon. The main character was frightened and wanted to leave the place as quickly as possible. He thought that perhaps because of this no one ever comes to this place. But suddenly he exclaimed to him, "Wait a minute." The main character wondered, who said that? The monster asked him, "Is there anyone else in this cave besides the 2 of them?" He was surprised because he thought spirit beasts can't talk, but the monster said it was more complicated than that, and asked him not to confuse him with the lower spirit beasts. The monster told him that he was not interested in him, but that he was willing to give him his blessing today. But the main character did not understand what he was talking about and told him that he just wanted to deceive him, but the monster replied that he had no reason to lie to someone of his level, and that he would know when the time was right. The monster said that behind his back there was a secret room where treasure was kept. The protagonist cautiously walked behind him and saw a bright orb. The monster told him to take it, after which he would be reborn and ascend several levels at once. The protagonist was incredibly happy with this and happily jumped on this orb. At the same time, in the school of spiritual beasts, the glass orb cracked and the girl who was sitting next to it coughed up blood. Her servants excitedly ran up to her and asked her if she was all right. She said something had happened to the altar of the beast she had caught. They saw that the magical pearl had cracked. They surmised that perhaps something had happened in the dungeon of the beast. But they couldn't believe it, as that mythical beast was very dangerous and if it escaped, there would be trouble. The girl aggressively said that the beast had nothing to do with it, for it was only a servant who had not even signed a contract with the deity yet. She said if her servants caught him once, they would catch him again. She exclaimed, "Elder, follow the deity to the altar of the beast." Suddenly some girl stood in the shadows, and grinned at them, for the spiritual beasts are gone, and they are still cocking their noses. And anyway, they have nowhere to go. The Empress and the elders went into the forest and suddenly a kunai flew at her, but at the last moment the elder protected the Empress with his blade. He exclaimed who dared to attack his men. Suddenly a tiger attacked them and ate their guard. At that moment a girl came out to them and asked them if that was all they could do. The Empress and the elders stood in a stupor and did not know what to do. This girl was approached by the same tiger who had killed their guard. The elder told the Empress to go away and that he would deal with the girl alone. But that girl didn't want to let the Empress go and told the tiger to attack them. The Empress and the elder jumped away from him at the last moment. He looked at her and understood that she was not so simple and decided to use his abilities. He used the call of spirit power and called the silver wolf devouring the sky. At this point she commanded the tiger to attack and kill the wolf. The silver sky devouring wolf collided with the shining tiger's deadly claw. A huge explosion erupted from their incredible power. It was a great distraction and the elder told the Empress to run away from the place. The Empress ran to the cave and was surprised as the beast had indeed disappeared. Upon entering the cave they saw his aura and it was quite fresh and they need to hurry, for he could not have gone far yet. The Empress and he must sign a contract with the goddess, for she has nothing to fear. At that time the beast told the main character that when the spring comes he will become much stronger. The main character tried to eat this orb, but at the last moment he suspected that something was wrong, because if it really was a real treasure, then why was the beast ready to give it to him so easily? He suggested that perhaps this orb was what was holding him back here, and after he ate it, the horrible beast would be free. The beast asked him why it took him so long to devour it, and told him to do it faster. The protagonist asked the system if he could devour beasts by skipping levels. The system said he could do it. He decided to swallow the ferocious beast. He jumped on it and bit it. The beast said in surprise, "You can't swallow me, you miserable little thing, how can you do this to me?" He replied that it was not up to him to swallow him or not. At this moment the absorption ability of the system was activated. The beast was perplexed. He did not understand how it was possible. Thanks to this ability the main character was able to absorb the beast. He asked the system how much his level had increased, but the system replied that the beast was too strong to digest him. He was furious and said why had he swallowed him at all. The protagonist decided to run to improve his digestion. He ran for a long time and thought it would help him, but the system alerted him that digestion in this system has nothing to do with physical exertion. In order to digest a higher level creature he must first digest many small beasts. He was furious, asking why the system didn't report this earlier. The system said he didn't ask. Suddenly the main character glowed a red light and took off. He was perplexed. He thought that this ability appeared thanks to the absorbed beast, because before he had been jumping a lot and he had never been able to do anything like that before. But this was not his new ability. At that time the Empress entered the cave and grabbed the protagonist and started to make a contract with him. All the elders were incredibly happy about this, as they thought she was making a contract with that fierce beast. The Empress seized him and exclaimed that his life belonged to her. she said that his body followed her and that he would become her faithful servant. The system notified the protagonist that the connection was successful and he became the Empress's spirit beast. The protagonist was shocked at what had just happened to him. All the elders were surprised to see this defenseless animal. The system said that after the contract, the spirit beast could only be replaced if its predecessor died. The protagonist exclaimed that he did not want to be someone else's spirit beast. He looked into the eyes of the Empress and saw in her the outline of his classmate from school, whom he had always lost every contest. She grabbed him by the tail and said she didn't think such a thing could happen, and called the protagonist a bastard. At that moment he thought he was mistaken and it wasn't his classmate. Suddenly she sat down on her knee and started coughing up blood again. The elder wanted to help her, but suddenly the assistant told him that the Empress had made a spiritual contract with some weak and frail beast. Now the Empress was of no value to the spiritual beast sect. He said in surprise that their sect could not exist without the Empress, but he answered him indignantly that there was now no use for the trash. He activated magic and told the Empress to return all the treasures given to her by the sect. She gave them everything she had, after which they fled from that cave. The Empress was angry with them, and said that the two of them deserved to die. The protagonist did not want to mess with her in any way, as he saw that she had so many enemies and wanted to escape from the cave. The system informed him that the master could summon the spirit beast at any time and place. As soon as the master died, the beast would also lose its life. He stopped and asked then what he should do now. Suddenly a tiger jumped out in front of him which killed the last servant of the Empress. The girl came out to the Empress and told her that she had served the sect for many years, and in the end she found herself cornered. She was going to kill the Empress and take her place. As soon as she killed her, she said the Empress's life would be cut short today. She didn't see the protagonist and stepped on him. He told her to watch her feet. She took him by the tail and was greatly surprised that this defenseless little beast could talk. He told her to let him go at once. She saw the seal of the spirit beast on it and was greatly surprised. She asked the Empress, "This is her spirit beast, but where is the Kraken?" Such garbage as a spiritual beast, no wonder the Empress became unwanted by those idiots. The Empress stood up and told her to overpower her. No spiritual beast she needed. But she was furious at the Empress, took out her whip and began to beat her, but at that moment the protagonist remembered, for now if the Empress died he himself would die. He had to protect her, no matter what it cost. He jumped to protect her and he was hit by the whip. From such blows they fell to the ground. She stopped feeling the Empress's breath, and told her she was nothing more than garbage and ordered her tiger to eat her. The protagonist did not understand what to do or how to get out of this situation, but suddenly a bright light appeared before the Empress. He saw someone's soul. At first he thought it was a reflection of the Empress, but then he realized it was still the same soul as before and he remembered his classmate Chen Mo again. After all, the custodian told him that many of his teachers and classmates had also fallen into this world. He observed this soul and couldn't believe that it was Cheng Mo's soul. Cheng Mo's soul had entered the body of the Empress. The tiger was ready to eat the Empress, but he decided to protect her, but at the last moment, the Empress woke up and closed the tiger's mouth. The tiger's owner was perplexed and did not understand what was happening, for after the Empress had closed the tiger's mouth he flew away several meters away. The protagonist felt the familiar energy and power, and made sure that his classmate Chen Mo was reborn in the body of the Empress. The girl was puzzled as the Empress overpowered her spirit beast with practically her bare hands. She didn't understand how she did it. The protagonist was incredibly happy that Chen Mo was reborn and they met in this world. It jumped in her hand and she didn't understand who it was. She thought it was just a talking caterpillar. She wondered if this talking caterpillar was Qin Yong. The girl did not understand who they were and did not know that another person had reincarnated in the body of the Empress. She decided to finish off the Empress with her whip, but at the last moment the main character defended his classmate. Cheng Yimou asked the main character who that girl was and why she was attacking them. He told her she might be here to kill her, and apparently the Empress was an important person and things are bad now. The protagonist said that they should run away from this place as quickly as possible. Cheng Yimou couldn't believe everything that was happening and thought it was all a dream, but even if it was all a dream, she wasn't going to give up. After a while the spirit beast of that girl recovered and was ready to attack them again. The girl activated the Eternal Tiger technique and the tiger got a lightning shell, thanks to which it could attack its targets with lightning. The main character understood that they would not last long, so he asked the system what new skills he had, because after he became the spirit beast of the Empress, he had to acquire a new skill. The system answered him that in addition to absorbing everything, he had a synthesis attack skill. After the spirit beast and the master were united, they would receive a unique skill, thanks to which the beast could become the master's defense. At this time, the girl and the tiger decided to deliver a crushing blow, which should have caused Cheng Yimou and the main character to die, but at the last moment the souls of the main characters combined and they were able to protect themselves from this blow. Cheng Yimou didn't understand what had just happened, because Qin Yun had just wrapped himself around her arm, but it was as if her body had become lighter. The protagonist told her that they were now one. She was surprised and didn't understand whose voice it was. But at this moment the tiger girl wasn't going to stop and started attacking Cheng Yimou again, but Cheng Yimou deftly dodged all the attacks and blows of the tiger. The protagonist was watching this and thought that, as expected from a black belt player that easily won the national competition, he was delighted by her strength, and in this world she will still not win. Cheng Yimou decided to end this fight and struck the tiger hard. From this blow all of the tiger's bones were broken. The girl was exhausted and had no strength. It made her kneel down and start coughing up blood. She looked at Cheng Yimou and didn't understand how this could happen. Cheng Yimou wanted to kill that girl, but she wasn't going to moderate today and teleported out of the place. She exclaimed that it was necessary to inform the alliance. Cheng Yimou looked at Qin Yong and asked if he was who he said he was. He confirmed her words and said that the two of them came into this world and the reason he became this way was because of the special ability the goddess had given him. The main character asked her if he had seen the goddess. It turned out that Cheng Yimou had asked the goddess to send her to the main character Qin Yong, but he couldn't tell him about it. The protagonist said that the goddess didn't deceive him and they really did travel through time, but he became an insect and also Cheng Yimou's spirit beast. He exclaimed to her that she shouldn't relax just because he was a caterpillar, because if he absorbed enough spirit beasts, he could overpower her. Cheng Yimou laughed and hugged him happily. But suddenly she started coughing up blood and fell unconscious. The protagonist didn't understand what was happening to her, but suggested that perhaps it was the body giving out because of the past contract, the trauma received then, decided with renewed vigor to give itself to her now. The system informed him that he could absorb the white tiger and gain new abilities. He slowly absorbed the tiger. The absorption was successful and the spiritual power of the white tiger began to digest. Unexpectedly a system panel appeared in front of him with the characteristics of the protagonist. The characteristics were slightly higher than they were on the first day and the protagonist was very happy about it. The system advised him to gain the skill, Blood of the Tiger and Qilin to increase the speed of recovery after injuries. The protagonist asked the system how he could use this skill. The system started explaining it to him and he was very confused about it, but he had no other choice. He went up to her and said he was doing it to save her, and asked Cheng Yimou not to be offended by him after that. The protagonist pulled out his tongue and started shaking it quickly. At this moment, the tiger and Qilin blood skill activated. When the wounded come into contact with the protagonist's saliva or blood, recovery becomes possible. Cheng Yimou was confused, but there was no other option. After a while she came to her senses and thanked the protagonist for the recovery. She asked him where they were going now. The protagonist said that their first priority was to bring her back to the sect that the Empress was a member of. At this time the elder arrived at his territory and told everyone that the Empress was dead. Everyone was shocked by this, but at that moment another girl came out and told everyone to stop the panic. She smiled and asked, "This place is still standing, right?" The protagonist and Chen Yimou went around the villages and asked people where the sect of spiritual beasts was. No matter who they crossed paths with, everyone was surprised as it was the first time they had seen a talking caterpillar. But all the villagers showed them the way to the sect they were looking for. Chen Yimou was surprised that not only her body but also her clothes were restored. He said it was because of the weeding skills they got from the weeds they met on the way here. After some time they came to a sect of the spiritual beast. At this time in the sect, one of the inhabitants had prepared a small gift to congratulate the new empress on her accession to the throne, and they were allowed to see her. The protagonist was surprised to find a new empress so quickly in the empire. He suggested they enter there, but they must be very careful. They approached the gate and were stopped by the guards. They asked where their gift for the empress was. The protagonist asked in surprise, did they have to bring a gift to get through? The guard replied that today was the accession of the new empress to the throne, and all must bring a gift. He angrily replied that before him stood the acting empress of the sect of the spiritual beast. The guards pointed their spears at them and told him how he dared to pretend to be an empress. At this time one of the elders heard this squabbling at the main gate. He asked who after making noise under the gate of his sect. The guard answered him that someone was trying to impersonate the empress and infiltrate the sect. Suddenly the elder saw and was greatly surprised. He exclaimed, "Empress, are you back?" And he bowed to them. The elder said to the guards how dare they treat the real empress this way, and told the guards to bow down immediately. He went up to the empress and told her that someone from Jin Men had seized power in order to destroy her. They put a new empress on the throne and now their sect is under their control. Chen Yimou asked him what about him. He told her that she shouldn't worry about him as he has his own plan. He said this was not the right place for this conversation and told them to follow him. He led them into the woods, and they asked him what this place was. But the elder did not answer their question, and said that even though he did not know how they had managed to survive the attack of that witch, but apparently she had managed to form a bond with the beast. The chief character asked him what he meant. At that moment the elder snapped his finger and big red eyes appeared in the dark forest. As it turned out it was a trap and the place where the protagonist and Chen Yimou were standing exploded from the attack. They were attacked by a black and red forest. They were able to dodge this attack, but they were also attacked by other animals such as a kicking orangutan, an armored beast and dogs with claws. The protagonist and Chen Yimou activated the unification skill again and thanks to her strength they were able to defeat these beasts, but at this moment the fox attacked them with a fireball. Chen Yimou realized that she couldn't dodge it and she decided to deflect the fireball and it flew straight into the fox. The elder stood in a stupor, because it was impossible to deal with all these beasts in such a short time. But he said that even a spiritual connection with such a simple caterpillar would not diminish its power. However, from the sect it needs an empress who can subdue powerful spiritual beasts. At that moment, he activated his ability, the devil's bloody seal of the mysterious beast, and a bloody mist appeared above them. The protagonist fell to the ground and was exhausted. The elder said that even though the new empress is pretty tough, the sect of spiritual beasts can't do without her. He told them that they came back here for nothing. Chen Yimou and the protagonist were under a bloody mist, at which point the guards began to attack them. Chen Yimou needed to find some kind of weapon to defend herself against them, but there was nothing nearby, so she grabbed the protagonist's tail and started to attack the guards with it. Thanks to her strength and her new body she was able to defend herself against all the guards. The elder was perplexed, because her spirit beast was sealed. Then how did she have such power? And why is this insect so strong? After the battle, the protagonist woke up and asked why his head hurt so badly. Chen Yimou explained to him that they were trapped. He asked her if she was sure that's why his headache was so bad. Suddenly a yellow lightning bolt appeared in front of them. They didn't understand what it was. The elder exclaimed to them that he did not want to do this, but they had forced him to, and now he would do the cleansing for the sake of the sect. He summoned the most powerful animal that the new empress gave to the great elder. The protagonist and Chen Mo decided to unite again to fight back against this spiritual beast. Chen Mo tried her best to hold back the attack of this beast as it was incredibly strong. The elder was terrified, he didn't understand how it was possible. But still Chen Mo was able to repel the beast's attack and it flew away from them. At this moment, the Emperor Lion used a skill that made the targets hit by the discharge lose consciousness, and no one had ever been able to defend against this attack. The Imperial Lion delivered a mighty blow to Chen Mo. This attack caused a big explosion and she flew several meters away and hit a tree, which snapped from the force. The main character asked her what happened to her and why she froze in place. Chen Mo replied that this was the first time it had happened to her and her body went numb. The Imperial Lion was ready to kill them. He jumped to finish them off with his attack, but at the last moment Chen Mo jumped away from him into a tree. She noticed that the lion's roar seemed to numb her body and she couldn't move and it was too dangerous to fight this lion directly. The protagonist suggested finding a way to weaken it. They tried to dodge all his attacks and ran towards the elder who called the Imperial Lion. They managed to get close to him. Chen Mo jumped on him grabbing his head and she hit him on the ground. The protagonist thought that now that lion must not be so strong. But the lion was just as strong. He kept attacking them, but Chen Mo was able to bounce off his next attack. The lion came to the elder and Chen Mo jumped on the lion's back. He tried to throw her off his back but nothing worked. The lion saw a mountain next to him and wanted to collide with it to crush or throw Chen Mo off himself. He accelerated and at the last moment before colliding Chen Mo jumped off his back and the lion collided with the rock with all speed. Chen Mo only had to finish it off. She concentrated all her strength in her right hand and attacked the lion with a strong blow, which killed the lion. The elder walked up to them and couldn't believe it. Chen Mo told him that the lion was dead and he could be in its place. The elder fell to his knees and told her that it was all because of the new empress and he had fought Chen Mo for the sect and he was ready to die at her hands. He told them to heed his advice and never enter the sect of the spiritual beast. The main character told Chen Mo that they should not listen to this old man. But Chen Mo answered him that this elder was just following orders, but the protagonist didn't care since he tried to kill them 5 minutes ago. Why should they listen to his advice now? At this time the new Empress Qing Chu was being congratulated on her ascension to the throne. She was happy as she had been waiting for this moment for many years, and today that day has come. She thought, is it true that they are cooperating with the Beast Management Alliance? This is a good choice. But some residents knew the truth that someone had seized power, killing the Empress, putting a new one in her place. The new Empress noticed that someone was not happy with her ascent and ordered the guards to bring all those who were not happy with it. After a while they were caught, and among those who were displeased was the elder in charge of guarding order. Her name was Tan Xiaoxiao. The Empress told everyone that they could not contradict their fate, even Elder Tang Xiaoxiao was no exception. Now there are people who are ready to go against the new Empress, and these people are playing with death, even though the past Empress was already dead. But Tang exclaimed to her that the past Empress is alive and it was all her fault. Qing Chu did not want to tolerate such remarks to herself. She went up to Tang and hit her, after which Qing Chu turned to an elder and said that they treated traitors too well, but the elder replied that Tang was also an elder and should not be treated recklessly. But Qing Chu got mad at him and executed him in one motion. She said that Tan was a traitor and what was not understandable she said. The Empress began to severely beat Elder Tang Xiaoxiao, for her to realize all her mistakes, then gave her time to think and accept the fact that the past Empress was a waste of time, and once she realized everything she could come to her, and only then Qing Chu would think about whether to give her a chance at life or not. The rest of the traitors ran to Tang and begged her not to do anything stupid, and offered to listen to the new Empress and they would be fine. But Tan smirked and said that even if she had to die, she would never acknowledge the new empress. The new empress was furious at Tang and she pulled out her chain and was going to kill her, but Tang said she would be loyal to the past empress even in the next life. She was ready to die and closed her eyes, but Qin Chu didn't kill her and Tang opened her eyes and stabbed herself. Why is she still alive? Is Qin Chu so strong that I didn't even feel the pain? But at the last moment Chen Mo protected Tang. Tang was incredibly happy when she saw the past empress. Chen Mo asked them, so this is the new empress? Qin Chu wondered, because she was told that she was dead. How is that possible? Chen Mo and the protagonist tied the elder they fought against in the forest. Qin Chu was surprised and asked how they managed to defeat the great elder. However, Qin Chu didn't care and told her that Chen Mo was about to die a second time. But at this point, the elders stopped her and told her that she shouldn't get her hands dirty in this garbage and suggested that they deal with the past empress themselves. They approached the empress and Tanya was really scared. She couldn't believe that they were doing this again. The protagonist asked her if she knew these people. Tang said she knew the names of each of them. The names are Lu Rinjia, Lu Rini, and Lu Yanbin. They are the three elders of the spiritual beast sect and strong beast masters at the level of the realm of heavenly power. The main character asked what is the kingdom of heavenly power. Tang said that there are 9 kingdoms, from high to low, and each of these kingdoms are divided into stages from 1 to 9. The higher the realm, the more powerful spirit beasts could be contracted with, so could cooperate with spirit beasts to use more powerful skills. Chen Mo asked her which realm she was in. Tang said that the empress was related to a divine beast and was at the 8th step. But now that the empress was attacked and sacrificed by the wrong people, and when she signed a contract with such a useless beast, she didn't know to what level Chen Mo's power had sunk. The protagonist exclaimed, if she called him useless one more time, he would bite her tongue off. The elders told them that after such a peaceful conversation, death awaited them, as they were the 3 lords of the beasts of heavenly power, and they were tired of wasting their time on pathetic losers. They summoned some of the best beasts, a horse, a giant horned deer, and a spiritual dare. The elders commanded their spirit beasts to kill the protagonist and the empress, and from one blow they flew away several meters. And they had no choice but to merge into one body. The giant horned deer attacked them. Chen Mo tried to hold back its blow, but it was too strong. At that moment Chen Mo became very weak and began to cough up blood. He didn't understand what purple smoke appeared on the battlefield. As it turned out it was spirit snake poison. The elder said, no master would be able to survive after this poison. Elder thanks to this poison controlled Chen Mo and told another to kill her while she was under her control. The other elder told the ferocious horse to use its mane as bayonets and pierce Chen Mo with them. She was in a helpless situation. The horse scattered and wanted to kill her. Chen Mo understood what she would not be able to assure, but suddenly Tang protected Chen Mo with her body and she fell down. The elders laughed at this situation, as this sacrifice was for nothing, and it would not change the outcome in any way. Chen Mo was furious at them, but they said that even the new empress could not do anything to them. One of them ordered the deer to crush Chen Mo. But unexpectedly she picked up the deer by the horns. Everyone was shocked and didn't understand how she could lift the deer, being poisoned by snake poison. They weren't going to stop and they ordered the snake to swallow it, but Chen Mo threw the deer at the snake and they died. The protagonist said that the intense anger completely displaced the poison from her body, causing Chen Mo's strength to increase several times. One of the elders said how this bunch of trash managed to ruin his mood so much. He exclaimed that he would now send Chen Mo to the women's hell. He ordered the horse to use its full fire power and the horse attacked them with its stiff mane. There were so many of them and Chen Mo couldn't stop them. Chen Mo grabbed Tang and started to run away from the battlefield. The protagonist asked the system if there was a skill that would help them in this difficult situation. The system replied that the process had reached 75% and when it reached 80% a new skill would be opened. Chen Imo tried to run away and stretch the time for the main character to get a new skill. After a while the process reached 80% and a new skill, Fist of the Holy Imperial Lion, was opened. At this point spikes from the horse were flying at them and the protagonist told Chen Imo to use the new skill. She concentrated all the power in her hand and attacked the horse. From this blow the horse fell unconscious. All the elders were shocked because it was the skill of a great elder, Imperial Lion Fist. They asked why she could use this skill. The bound elder realized what he had greatly underestimated the power of this beast. The Empress came to the battlefield and told the strongest elders that they were useless, who had just wasted her time and made a mess of the place. They knelt down and begged for mercy, asking for a second chance by which they could definitely kill Chen Imo. But she was merciless to them, and in the blink of an eye she killed the three of them in one move. The protagonist warned Chen Imo to be sharp with the Empress, as her aura was much stronger than those three elders. Empress Qing Chu summoned a giant stone monkey. Everyone was shocked by its size as they had never seen such a beast before, as this spirit beast was from a secret realm. According to legend, spiritual beasts of this level were incomparable even to the masters of the Tianxian kingdom. Qing Chu told Chen Imo to kneel before her and beg for mercy like a dog, but Chen Imo was not going to give up after all she had gone through. Qing Chu told the stone monkey to kill Chen Imo. The monkey swung his arm and attacked Chen Imo, but she dodged the attack and jumped on her arm and ran on it. Chen Imo was about to deliver a crushing blow to the monkey's face with her Imperial Lion Fist, but the spirit beast pushed her off her arm with his other hand and Chen Imo hit the ground with great speed. The protagonist asked her if she was alive. She gathered her last strength and jumped away from another attack. The protagonist told her that they could no longer fight him, as whatever spirit beast is, it's nothing until its master controls it and Chen Imo can no longer use his normal power. So, as with the Great Elder, they need to eliminate the Empress. Chen Imo agreed and headed towards Qing Chu. She wanted to attack her, but Qing Chu summoned another spiritual beast rock crab and Chen Imo had to step back. Qing Chu said that she got this beast from the depths of the secret realm, and so far no one had been able to leave a single scratch on its shell. Chen Imo had a very hard time, as this crab's defense was much higher than that of the rock monkey. The rock crab started attacking Chen Imo with its claws. They were incredibly sharp. She tried to dodge them and when she jumped up, at that moment the stone monkey attacked her. Chen Imo couldn't dodge such an attack and she fell to the ground again with all her might. From such a blow the protagonist had to disengage from Chen Imo. He did not know what to do in this situation. At this time Qing Chu told the stone monkey to crush them. She combined her two hands into one big fist and hit the protagonist and Chen Imo. After a while the main character woke up in human form. He didn't understand where he was. He thought the stone monkey had killed them. The system informed him that he was in system space and that the outer space is now in a state of quiescence, because the system deemed that environment too dangerous for the protagonist and he was moved to system space. Now the main character has two possible outcomes. The first outcome is that all energy is transmitted to the person involved, temporarily activating 100% of the abilities of the main character, also activating 100% of his defenses. In the end the person turns into a form of battle armor and refuses to engage in independent combat mode. The second option, the independent combat mode is activated. The body is modified to activate independent individual combat, but only 50% of the main character's abilities are used. The protagonist thought about these options, because now Chen Imo is unconscious and therefore only he can fight. He didn't want to transfer this part completely to Chen Imo, so he was going to prove that he was no worse than her in combat. He chose the second option, because this way he would fight himself and be able to protect Chen Imo. The system accepted his decision and gave him a new, absorption at different levels, ability. The protagonist's body glowed yellow, and at that moment, the transformation began. The main character returned to the battlefield and exclaimed that no stone monkey could defeat him. The main character reincarnated into a mighty and ferocious dragon. He himself did not expect to become like that. Empress Qing Chu was surprised and wondered how he didn't die. All the elders could not believe their eyes, as this was the first time they had seen a spiritual beast in the guise of a dragon. Moreover, in this world there had been no such beasts for a long time. But Qing Chu resolutely made a choice to kill him and told the stone monkey to beat the main character to death. The monkey swung his fist, but the main character hit the monkey with his tail. It fell to the ground, and at that moment the main character jumped on the monkey and killed it. He stood on the monkey and told the Empress that it was her turn to die. He bravely attacked her, but she summoned the rock crab again and wanted to defend herself with it. The protagonist remembered that the crab has a very hard shell. He decided to use the skill, Fist of the Holy Imperial Lion, and killed the crab without any problems. The Empress was shocked, because until that moment no one could penetrate this armor. The protagonist went to her and told her that everything was fine. But the Empress said that if he killed her he would become a target of the Beast Control Alliance, and wherever he was hiding they would find him. But the protagonist didn't understand what organization she was talking about. She smirked and wanted to explain to him about this organization, but at that voice in her head told her to shut up and told her that she was talking too much. Someone inside her body grabbed her heart and exclaimed to her that she must die, and someone's hand squeezed her heart, killing her. The protagonist walked up to her and didn't understand what had just happened. The elders were just as perplexed. Her last words were about an alliance for beast management, but she didn't have time to say anything about this organization. The Alliance for Beast Management is an organization that wreaks havoc under the guise of freeing spiritual animals. This organization helps to contract with several animals at once. This meant that Empress Qing Chu was in cahoots with them. At this point, the bound elder was terrified and exclaimed to the protagonist that everything is as simple as it seems. At this time, from a distant cliff, the sixth chairman of the Beast Management Alliance was watching this. His name was Lu Chang. He said, "This is why I said that this man cannot be relied upon to free the spirit animals in this area. I must do it myself."